title is The Law of the Sublime?
It is. We'll see if that ends up being the title, but it's so far it's stuck. Yeah.
And how would you define the sublime?
Okay. Well, buckle up.
Okay.
So, what we do as humans, I keep using the word human. I'm getting a little bit tired of it, but here we go. Is we live in what I call like a circle. Okay. This circle are the codes and conventions that we're supposed to live by, right? So, and in our woke, politically correct world, that circle is like that, right? It's getting narrower, 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 narrower. But this is how we're supposed to act, what we're supposed to say, what we're supposed to do, what we're not supposed to do or say, right? Et cetera, et cetera. Now, that circle existed in ancient Egypt as it does now, but it was very different back then. They didn't have the same taboos. They didn't have wokeness back then. They had a different kind of wokeness about their gods, etc. But that circle existed. Anytime you have human beings together in any social situation, a limiting factor is occurring. This is how you're supposed to behave. These are the codes. These are the conventions. But what is equally part of our nature is the moment you set a limit for us, we're fascinated by what lies outside that circle. We want to transgress it. We want to explore what we're not supposed to do, what we're not supposed to say, what we're not supposed to experience, because it piques our curiosity, right? So what lies just outside that circle is what I call the realm of the sublime. It's something that almost can take your breath away, or it's almost too hard to describe in words because it's different from anything you've ever experienced before, right?
Yeah.
And so each chapter in the book is a different element of going outside that circle, right? The idea is, so the ultimate thing outside that circle is death itself, right? Because while you're alive, you can never really know death, right? Unless you have like a near-death experience, which I actually did have. But that's like the ultimate thing out beyond that circle. And the word sublime from the Latin means up to the threshold. And I think it as up to the threshold of a door. So that circle has these doors, which you can peer out and see something beyond the daily world, right? And Aldous Huxley wrote a beautiful book about that, The Doors of Perception. He called them cracks in the wall or doors. So sublime means up to the threshold of a door, and peering into what death might mean, and what that means to be a mortal creature, and what it means for you personally, is the ultimate sublime experience. It was the last chapter in The Laws of Human Nature when I talk about how meditating on your own mortality and thinking it through deeply can have this incredibly sublime effect on you. So, for instance, other people have had more powerful near-death experiences. I was in a coma for a couple hours, and if my girlfriend now my wife hadn't, I was driving here in Los Angeles. If she hadn't pulled me over, I would be dead right now, if I were alone, etc. But it was very powerful in the sense of, I now can look at the world and go, I'm not here. I could easily be dead. And so my stroke occurred on August 17th of 2018. Every August 17th, it's not like my birthday, it's like my death day. That was the day that I died. I could have been, right? So when I assume that I'm actually dead, that could have been my fate, the whole world looks different. I don't see squirrels running through my yard or birds in the sky or people jogging in the same way anymore. It's like, this is all going to disappear from me. This is like an insane journey that I've been on, to be alive, to be conscious. It changes you. So death is one of those doors. Opening it changes you. There are other doors that have to deal with understanding animals. I have a chapter I've written on your childhood and how childhood was a very sublime experience, and going back to your childhood reawakens those sensations. I had a chapter on ancient religions and how understanding how ancient people thought and bringing that into in the present can also open one of those doors. I don't know, end up probably having about 15 of them.
Wow.
But that's sort of more or less the book. I mean, I could go on for 23 hours. I'm writing, a whole book on it, but that gives you a taste of it.
Great, great. Well, you mentioned Aldous Huxley, The Doors of Perception. I wonder, do psychedelics have a role in your understanding of the sublime?
That's a very good question. Well, personally, when I was in college, I did a lot of psychedelics.
Oh, okay.
It was the 70s. I'm an old dude, right? I was in Berkeley, for God's
Right.
sake. What are you going to do? It's like it's in the air you breathe. So I did a lot of pot and hashish and peyote was my favorite.
Yeah.
Mescaline and LSD and mushrooms, the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
And I have incredibly wonderful memories of it.
Really?
My friends and I weren't doing drugs to get high or have party. We were wanting to know what it's like to be alive. We were just curious. And some of my most profound spiritual experiences came during those trips, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So I haven't done it in a while because I'm afraid of doing some damage to my brain chemistry. Although for this new book, I am considering a few things.
Really?
Yeah, which I can go into later.
Yeah.
But so reading Aldous Huxley and other books, he explains why psychedelics have the power that they have and why they can lead to these sublime moments. Do you want to hear that answer?
Please, please.
Well, basically, as I said before, everything seems to be circling around the same ideas here. As I said before, the brain operates as a filtering mechanism. Because if you literally were aware of all that your brain is taking in, stimuli, things in the environment, smells, noises, sounds, you wouldn't be able to function. It's too much. So as a survival mechanism, the brain is evolved to filter out and only give you the bits of information that you need to survive, right? But at the same time, the brain is this immense, the possibilities of what you can think and do are just almost limitless. Like Huxley said, the brain could almost understand everything in the world going on or remember everything that you have, all of your experiences, but we don't. He calls that thing of seeing everything the mind at large. So the brain could see the mind at large, but instead it has this little narrowing filtering mechanism because of the pressure to survive. Mescaline, particularly that particular drug, I forget the hormone that it operates on. It might be serotonin or dopamine. I can't remember. I get them all confused. It operates on a particular chemical that dampens that survival mechanism, that dampens that part of the brain that is filtering everything, that is struggling so desperately to keep you alive. It's like literally calming that down. And so the things that you don't notice that are being filtered out are suddenly there. You're seeing colors that you never noticed before. You're looking at that fly and you're going, whoa, that fly that's amazingly beautiful.
Yeah.
Look at the iridescent colors. It sounds almost like a joke, like what people smoke too much pot, I know. But it is actually, it's true. The world is this insanely beautiful, insanely sublime artifact. And you're not noticing it because your mind is down to this. But when you don't have that pressure anymore, you're hearing things, you're smelling things, you're seeing things that normally had been filtered out. So psychedelics definitely have a role to play in that. But it's what you use it for. If you're using it just to escape from the boredom of your life and you're not using it as an adventure, a journey into something that's going to show you a different aspect of consciousness, then I find it dangerous. And it all goes back to that either a negative habit or a positive habit. That becomes a kind of a negative experience because you're just trying to escape. I don't see psychedelics as a way of escaping. I see it as a way of journeying into reality in some ways.
Wow.